I watched my brother Jake lean against my brand new Tesla, beer in hand, touching the paint like he owned it. 4th of July barbecue at my parents' house, and he was already starting. I could see it in his eyes, that entitled gleam he'd had since we were kids. The one that said everything I had should be his. My stomach twisted into knots, but I kept my face neutral. I'd learned that trick over 30 years of dealing with Jake's manipulations. Never let him see you sweat. Never give him ammunition. "Nice car, little sis," he called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. Must have cost what, 90 grand? 100? Seems like a waste for someone who just drives to work and back. I smiled tight, sipping my lemonade. "It's mine, Jake. That's all that matters." He pushed off the car, swaggering toward me with that cocky grin. "Come on, don't be selfish. Let me take it for a spin. Just around the block. I'll be careful." "No," I said simply. His face darkened. Jake hated being told no. "Seriously? Your own brother asks for one favor and you can't even." I said no. I turned away from him, walking toward where Mom was setting out potato salad and corn on the cob. But I could feel his eyes boring into my back, could practically hear the wheels turning in his head. He wasn't done. Jake was never done. The thing about my brother is that he's always been the golden child. Tall, charming, athletic. Mom and Dad worshipped him growing up. Star quarterback in high school, popular, always surrounded by friends. I was the awkward younger sister, nose in books, invisible at family gatherings. When Jake wanted something, he got it. Toys, money, attention, forgiveness for every screw-up. The pattern was set early and it never changed. Even now, at 35, Jake could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. Never mind that he'd been fired from 3 jobs in 5 years. Never mind that he'd borrowed money from Mom and Dad at least a dozen times and never paid it back. Never mind that his wife left him last year because of his gambling problem. None of that mattered. Jake was still the favorite, still got the benefit of every doubt. And me? I was the responsible one. The one who put myself through college working 2 jobs. The one who climbed the corporate ladder through sheer determination. The one who saved and invested and finally, at 32, could afford the car of my dreams. But none of that earned me the same unconditional love Jake got for just existing. I'd made peace with it mostly. Built my own life, my own success, independent of their approval. But days like today reminded me how much it still stung. The barbecue continued. Dad grilled burgers and hot dogs. My sister Amy showed up with her kids, who immediately ran screaming into the backyard. Mom fussed over everyone, making sure plates were full and drinks were cold. Normal family chaos. But I kept one eye on Jake the whole time. He was drinking more than usual, his movements getting looser, his voice getting louder. And he kept staring at my car, kept bringing it up in conversation. "That Tesla's got what, insane acceleration," he said to Dad. 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds. Must be wild to drive. "Jake, leave it alone," Amy said quietly. She'd always been the peacemaker, the middle child trying to keep everyone happy. "What?" "I'm just saying it's a cool car. Emma should share. We're family, right? What's hers is ours." "That's not how family works," I said evenly. "Sure it is," Jake shot back. "Family shares. Family helps each other out. Or does your fancy tech job and expensive car mean you're too good for us now?" There it was. The guilt trip. The manipulation. Making me the bad guy for having boundaries. "I'm not too good for anyone," I said carefully. "But my car is my property. I worked hard for it. You don't get to demand I hand over the keys just because we share DNA." Mom made a disapproving sound. "Emma, honey, would it really hurt to let him drive it once? Jake just wants to see what it's like. You could be more generous." My chest tightened. Of course she'd take his side. She always did. "No, Mom. I'm not handing my car keys to someone who's been drinking." "I'm fine," Jake slurred slightly, proving my point. "Barely had anything. Come on, Emma. Stop being a bitch about this." "Jake," Dad said sharply. "Language. But he didn't tell Jake to drop it. Didn't defend me. Just objected to the profanity, not the demand. I excused myself and went inside to use the bathroom. I needed a minute away from the pressure, from Jake's entitled attitude and my parents' silent support of it. I splashed cold water on my face and stared at myself in the mirror. You knew this would happen, I told myself. You knew he'd pull something. Because this wasn't new. Jake had been borrowing my things since childhood. My bike when we were kids. My laptop in college. Money from my wallet. He took and took and took, and when I objected, I was the selfish one. The mean one. The one who didn't understand what family meant. But this was different. This was a $90,000 car that I'd earned. And I'd be damned if I'd let him take it. When I came back outside, Jake was gone. So were my car keys. Panic flooded through me. I'd left my purse on the patio table, hadn't thought to guard it because we were at a family barbecue, for God's sake. I ran to the table. My purse was open, contents scattered slightly. Keys missing. Where's Jake? I demanded. Amy looked up, startled. He went inside a minute ago. Said he needed another beer. I bolted for the front of the house, my heart hammering. Please don't let him be stupid enough. Please don't let him actually. But there he was. Standing next to my Tesla, my keys in his hand, that triumphant smirk on his face. Thanks for the loan, sis, he said, clicking the unlock button. Jake, stop. I was running now, crossing the lawn. Don't you dare get in that car. Relax. I'm just taking it for a quick drive. I'll bring it back in 20 minutes. You're drunk. You're not insured. And you stole my keys. Give them back now. He was already opening the driver's door. God, you're so dramatic. It's just a car. It's my car. I reached him, grabbed his arm. Jake, I'm serious. Do not get in there. He shoved me back. Not hard enough to knock me down, but enough to make me stumble. Mom gasped from the porch where she'd followed us. Dad was right behind her. Jake Michael Thompson, you give your sister her keys right now, Dad said, but his voice had no real authority. He'd been saying things like that to Jake his whole life, never actually enforcing consequences. I'm just borrowing it, Jake said, sliding into the driver's seat. Everyone needs to calm down. That's when I played my card. The one I'd been holding in reserve, hoping I wouldn't need. The one I'd prepared 3 days ago when Jake called me asking about the car, and I'd heard that tone in his voice. The one that said he wanted something from me. I pulled out my phone, opened an app, and pressed a button. The Tesla's locks engaged with a solid thunk. The screen inside went dark. The car was completely disabled. Jake's face went from confused to furious in seconds. He tried the start button. Nothing. Tried the unlock button. Nothing. The car was a very expensive, very high-tech brick. What the hell? He was yanking on the door handle from the inside, but it wouldn't budge. Emma, what did you do? Remote disable feature, I said calmly, though my hands were shaking. The car's connected to my phone. I can lock it, unlock it, disable it completely from anywhere in the world. Which I just did. You're trapped in there until I decide to let you out. This is insane. He was pounding on the window now. Let me out. Give me my keys first. Slide them under the door. You can't do this. I just did. Keys. Now. Mom was fluttering nervously on the porch. Emma, sweetheart, this is a bit much, don't you think? Just unlock it and let him out. He's learned his lesson. No, Mom. He hasn't. He never does because nobody ever makes him face consequences. He stole my keys and tried to take my car. He put his hands on me when I tried to stop him. He's been drinking. And you want me to just let it go? Again? Dad shifted uncomfortably. Emma's right, honey. Jake crossed a line. I almost fell over. Dad agreeing with me? That was new. Jake was still trapped in the car, and I could see him starting to panic. The windows were tinted, but I could make out his shape moving around frantically, trying every button and control. Nothing worked. Tesla's security system is impressive when you activate it. I'll call the cops, Jake shouted, his voice muffled through the window. I'll tell them you trapped me in here. Go ahead, I called back. I'd love to explain to the police how you stole my car keys and attempted to take my vehicle without permission while intoxicated. Pretty sure that's called attempted auto theft. We can talk about assault too, since you shoved me. Silence from the car. Then, slowly, the keys slid out from under the door. I picked them up, tucked them safely in my pocket, and unlocked the car. Jake tumbled out, red-faced and furious. You're out of your mind, he spat. Over a stupid car. You trapped me in there like some kind of psycho. You stole my keys, I said quietly. After I told you no multiple times. After I set a clear boundary. You decided that what you wanted was more important than my consent, my property, my safety. So yeah, I trapped you in there. And I'd do it again. He lunged at me, but Dad stepped between us. That's enough, Jake. Go inside and sober up. Are you taking her side? Jake looked genuinely shocked. Dad, I said enough. Dad's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Your sister is right. You stole from her. You tried to take something that wasn't yours. That's not okay. That's never been okay, even though we've let it slide too many times before. Jake stared at Dad like he'd been slapped. Then he turned and stormed into the house, slamming the door behind him. The backyard was silent except for Amy's kids still playing on the swing set, oblivious to the drama. Mom looked like she wanted to say something, but for once she kept quiet. Amy was watching me with something like admiration. I think I'm going to head home, I said quietly. This was supposed to be a nice family day, and I've ruined it. You didn't ruin anything, Amy said firmly. Jake did. Like always. And for once, somebody called him on it. Good for you, Emma. Seriously. I hugged my sister, nodded to my parents, and got in my car. My hands were still shaking as I started the engine, but underneath the adrenaline was something else. Pride. Satisfaction. I'd stood up for myself. I'd held my boundary. I'd refused to be bulldozed. I drove home expecting that to be the end of it. Jake would sulk, Mom would be disappointed in me, and things would go back to normal. The family barbecue incident would become another story about how Emma overreacted, how she'd changed since getting her fancy job and expensive car. But I was wrong. 3 days later, I got a call from Amy. You need to know something, she said without preamble. Jake's planning something. He's pissed about what happened, and he's been talking about teaching you a lesson. He thinks you humiliated him in front of the family. My stomach dropped. What kind of lesson? I don't know exactly. But Emma, he's not letting this go. He called me last night, drunk, rambling about how you think you're better than him, how someone needs to take you down a peg. I'm worried he's going to do something to your car. Like what? Key it? Slash the tires? I don't know, Amy said, and she sounded genuinely scared. Maybe. Or maybe worse. You know how he gets when he's been drinking and feels like he's been wronged. He gets mean. Vindictive. I did know. I'd seen it before, just never directed at me. Jake had gotten into fights in bars, trashed an ex-girlfriend's apartment when she dumped him, thrown a brick through his former boss's window after getting fired. When Jake felt wronged, he lashed out. Thanks for warning me, I said. I'll be careful. Emma, maybe you should file a police report or something. What he did at the barbecue is theft. And if he's making threats, no proof of threats. Just drunk rambling to his sister. The cops won't do anything. Then what are you going to do? Good question. I thought about it for a long minute. I'm going to be ready. I spent the next week preparing. I installed a security camera aimed at where I parked my car at my apartment complex. I enabled every security feature the Tesla had, including the built-in cameras that record when the car detects motion nearby. I documented everything from the barbecue, writing down exactly what happened, when, and who witnessed it. I even consulted with a lawyer friend about what legal options I had. And then I waited. Because I knew Amy was right. Jake wasn't done. He made his move exactly 1 week after the barbecue. I got an alert on my phone at 2 in the morning. Motion detected near vehicle. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the live camera feed from my Tesla. There was Jake, dressed in dark clothes, face partially covered with a baseball cap. He was holding something. It took me a second to recognize it. A tire iron. He raised it, clearly about to smash my windshield. I pressed the panic alarm feature. The car's horn started blaring, lights flashing. Jake jumped back, startled. Then he recovered and swung the tire iron anyway. But I'd already called 911. Someone's vandalizing my car in the parking lot, I said, giving the operator my address. I have him on camera. Please send someone quickly. The Tesla's cameras were recording everything in high definition. Jake smashing the windshield. Jake moving around to the driver's side window. Jake trying the door handles, trying to break in. Every movement captured, time-stamped, undeniable. By the time the police arrived 4 minutes later, Jake had done significant damage. Shattered windshield, broken driver's window, deep scratches along the side panels from the tire iron. Thousands of dollars in damage. The cops caught him trying to flee through the parking lot. He still had the tire iron in his hand. I came downstairs in my pajamas, still recording everything on my phone. The officers had Jake in handcuffs, and he was shouting about how this was all a misunderstanding, how he was just checking on the car for his sister. That's my brother, I told the officers. Jake Thompson. He tried to steal this car last week at a family gathering. I have witnesses. Tonight he came back to vandalize it. My car's security cameras recorded everything. One of the officers looked interested. The car has cameras? 4 of them. They record constantly when motion is detected. I can send you all the footage. You'll see him arrive, pull out the tire iron, and start smashing windows. His face is clearly visible. Jake's expression went from angry to panicked. Emma, come on. Don't do this. I'm your brother. We can work this out. You came to my home at 2 in the morning with a weapon and destroyed my property, I said coldly. After I told you to leave me alone. After you stole from me. After you assaulted me. No, Jake. We can't work this out. You're going to face consequences for once in your entitled life. They arrested him. Vandalism, attempted burglary, destruction of property. I sent the police all the footage from my car cameras and my security camera. Crystal clear video of Jake committing multiple crimes. My phone started ringing an hour later. Mom, crying, begging me to drop the charges. Dad, trying to stay calm but asking if we could handle this as a family. Amy, apologizing for Jake's behavior but worried about what an arrest would do to him. I told them all the same thing. Jake made his choices. He has to live with the consequences. I'm done protecting him from his own actions. The next morning, I called my insurance company and started the claim process. Then I called a lawyer and filed for a restraining order. I gathered every piece of documentation I had, the barbecue incident, witness statements from Amy and my parents, the security footage, the police report. I built an airtight case. Jake's hearing was 3 weeks later. Mom and Dad showed up, looking exhausted and heartbroken. Jake stood before the judge in an orange jumpsuit, his lawyer beside him looking grim. The prosecutor laid it all out. The attempted theft at the family barbecue. The threats Jake had made to Amy. The vandalism caught on camera. The restraining order violation, since I'd explicitly told Jake to stay away from me and my property after the barbecue incident. Jake tried to claim it was just a family dispute that had gotten out of hand. His lawyer argued for leniency, talking about Jake's struggles with alcohol and gambling, how he was going through a rough time after his divorce. Then it was my turn. I took the stand and told the truth. Every detail. Years of Jake taking my things without permission. Years of my parents making excuses for him. How I'd finally bought something I was proud of and he'd tried to steal it. How when I stopped him, he'd come back in the middle of the night to destroy it. This isn't about a car, I told the judge. This is about someone who's never been told no, who's never faced real consequences, who believes he's entitled to anything he wants regardless of who it hurts. My brother needs help. But more than that, he needs to understand that his actions have repercussions. The judge sentenced Jake to 90 days in jail, 3 years probation, mandatory substance abuse counseling, and restitution for all damages to my car. Plus, he had to maintain the restraining order, staying at least 500 feet away from me at all times. Mom sobbed in the courtroom. Dad sat stone-faced. Amy squeezed my hand and whispered, "You did the right thing." But it didn't feel right. It felt terrible. He was my brother. And I just sent him to jail. The family backlash was immediate and brutal. Mom called me a traitor, said I'd destroyed our family over material possessions. Dad was more measured, but disappointed, saying I could have found another way. Extended family took sides, some supporting me, others horrified that I'd turned on my own blood. Thanksgiving was canceled that year. Nobody wanted to host a gathering where half the family wasn't speaking to the other half. Christmas was just as bad. I spent it alone in my apartment, wondering if I'd made a horrible mistake. But then something unexpected happened. Jake got out after 60 days with good behavior, and he called me. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Emma," he said, his voice different than I'd ever heard it. "I need to talk to you. In person, if you'll let me. I'll meet anywhere you want, somewhere public, with people around. I just need to say some things." We met at a coffee shop 2 days later. Jake looked different. Thinner, older, tired. He sat across from me and didn't say anything for a long moment. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "I'm not saying that to get you to drop the restraining order or make things easier for me. I'm saying it because I owe you an apology that's about 20 years overdue." I stayed silent, waiting. "Being in jail was the first time in my life I had to face what I've done," he continued. "No mom making excuses. No dad bailing me out. No Amy running interference. Just me and the consequences of my choices. And Emma, I've made some really terrible choices. Especially with you." "Yeah," I said quietly. "You have." "I was jealous," Jake admitted. "My whole life, I was the golden child. Everything came easy. Sports, friends, girls. I never had to try. And then I graduated, and the real world didn't care about my high school football stats. I struggled. Lost jobs, lost my marriage, lost my self-respect. And there you were, working hard, succeeding, buying your dream car. You did everything right while I screwed up everything. And instead of being proud of you, instead of letting it motivate me to do better, I resented you. I wanted to take you down because your success reminded me of my failures." Tears were rolling down my cheeks. "Jake, I never tried to compete with you. I just wanted to live my life." "I know," he said. "And I made that life hell sometimes. Taking your things, demanding your resources, treating you like you owed me something just because we're related. Then that night at the barbecue, when you trapped me in your car, that was the first time anyone ever actually stopped me. And I hated it. I hated you for it. So I got drunk and stupid and decided to destroy the thing you loved most." He was crying now too. "Emma, I could have killed someone that night if I'd driven drunk. If you hadn't stopped me at the barbecue, if you hadn't pressed charges after I vandalized your car, I would have kept escalating. The counselor in jail helped me see that. I was spiraling, and you were the only one who cared enough to let me hit rock bottom." "It didn't feel like caring," I whispered. "It felt like destroying my family." "You didn't destroy anything," Jake said firmly. "I did. Years ago. You just refused to keep pretending it wasn't happening. And yeah, it hurt. It still hurts. But I'm getting help now. Real help. Therapy, AA meetings, job training. I'm trying to become someone I can be proud of. Someone you might be able to forgive someday." We talked for 2 hours. It wasn't a complete reconciliation, but it was a start. Jake was genuinely trying to change, and I could see it. The entitlement was gone, replaced by humility and self-awareness. Over the next year, Jake continued his recovery. He got a job in construction, something manual and honest. He attended every counseling session, every AA meeting. He wrote me letters updating me on his progress, never asking for anything, just sharing his journey. I eventually agreed to supervised visits with him, coffee shops or restaurants, always during the day. We talked about our childhood, our parents' favoritism, how it had damaged both of us in different ways. Jake had been drowned in unearned praise and exemption from consequences. I'd been starved for approval and told my accomplishments didn't matter. Both were forms of neglect. Mom and Dad slowly started to understand. It took months of family therapy sessions that Jake initiated and paid for. Sessions where we all had to confront uncomfortable truths about the family dynamics we'd created. Dad admitted he'd been too soft on Jake, always making excuses. Mom confessed she'd been so focused on protecting Jake that she'd ignored how it affected me and Amy. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks and arguments and moments where it seemed like we'd never fix what had been broken. But we were trying, all of us, really trying for the first time. 2 years after the barbecue incident, Jake completed his probation. He'd paid back every penny of restitution, stayed sober, kept his job, even started dating someone who seemed good for him. He asked if I'd consider lifting the restraining order. I agreed, with conditions. Boundaries about respecting my property, my space, my decisions. He accepted every single one without argument. Last month was Mom's birthday, and we had the first full family gathering since that 4th of July barbecue 3 years ago. Everyone was there, including Jake. It was awkward at first, everyone trying too hard to be normal. But then Amy's kids started chasing each other around the yard, and Mom fussed over the cake, and Dad fired up the grill. Jake approached me while I was setting out plates. "Nice car," he said, nodding toward my Tesla in the driveway. I'd gotten the repairs done and it looked perfect again. I tensed automatically, old instincts kicking in. "I mean it," Jake said softly. "It's a beautiful car. You earned it. You should be proud." "I'm proud of you, Emma. For everything you've accomplished. For standing up to me when nobody else would. For giving me a chance to become better." "Thanks, Jake," I managed. "I'm proud of you too. For doing the work. For changing." He smiled, and it was genuine. Want to know the weirdest thing? Getting arrested was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because you refused to let me get away with it. You loved me enough to let me face consequences. That's real family. We stood there for a moment, brother and sister, with 3 years of pain and healing between us. Not perfect. Not healed. But better. Honest. Real. My car keys were in my pocket, and I knew they were safe. Not just because of technology or security systems, but because my brother had finally learned that some boundaries are sacred. That taking what isn't yours destroys more than just property. That real strength is respecting someone's no. The little girl who'd watched her things get taken again and again had grown into a woman who knew how to protect what was hers. And the entitled boy who'd taken and taken had grown into a man who'd learned the value of earning instead of stealing. So yeah, that 4th of July barbecue changed everything. Jake tried to take my car keys, but I was ready. And that readiness saved my car, my safety, and ultimately, my brother's life. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable. Sometimes justice is the purest form of family. The ending could have been different. If I'd backed down, if I'd let him take the car that night, if I'd dropped the charges after he vandalized it, the story would have continued its toxic pattern, spiraling toward some eventual tragedy. But I held firm, and that firmness created space for real change. That's what people don't understand about boundaries. They're not cruel. They're not selfish. They're the framework that makes healthy relationships possible. When you let people cross your boundaries without consequence, you're not being kind. You're being complicit in their self-destruction. I look at Jake now, sober and employed and actually trying, and I know I made the right choice. Even when it hurt. Even when the family hated me for it. Even when I spent holidays alone questioning everything, the resentment I carried for years has faded. It's been replaced by something harder one but more valuable: mutual respect. Jake respects my boundaries because he had to learn the hard way what happens when he doesn't. And I respect his efforts to change because I've seen the work he's put in. We'll never have a perfect sibling relationship. Too much history, too many scars. But we have an honest one now, and that's better than the toxic dynamic we had before. Sometimes I drive past my parents' house and remember that day. Jake leaning against my car with that entitled smirk. The keys sliding out from under the door. The fear and anger and satisfaction of standing my ground. And I think about all the people out there who are facing similar situations. Family members who take and take. People who've never heard no, who've never faced consequences. The quiet victims who keep sacrificing their own well-being to keep the peace. To those people, I want to say this: protecting yourself isn't selfish. Setting boundaries isn't mean. Letting someone face the consequences of their actions isn't betrayal. Sometimes it's the most loving thing you can do. And if they can't see that now, maybe someday they will. Like Jake eventually did. My car is still beautiful, still my pride and joy. But it's also a symbol now. A reminder that I'm strong enough to defend what's mine. Smart enough to prepare for attacks. Brave enough to stand alone when necessary. And forgiving enough to allow for redemption when it's genuinely earned. That 4th of July, my brother tried to take my car keys. But I was ready. And that readiness changed both our lives forever.